Earlier today, I spoke with the head of the D.C. Police Union about all of this. Here's our conversation. Gregg, first question. The District of Columbia sued the Trump administration today, alleging it is illegal to do what it has done in seizing the Metropolitan Police Department. Do your rank-and-file members agree with that?
Well, it's important to know why exactly the feds are here in the first place. And the fact of the matter is that 5 years ago, the city council passed a boatload of legislation that hamstrung cops, made it impossible for us to do our jobs, and exposed us to administrative, civil, and even criminal penalties, even when we go out and do our job properly. We're currently have an authorized strength of 4,000 sworn police officers, but we only have 3,180. So we have over 800 vacancies for the position of sworn officer, and that's why we cannot get a handle on crime here in the district. So it should come as no surprise that the federal agencies, through the president, have decided to intervene because we cannot keep this city safe. Listen, we welcome any help we can get, whether that's federal agents, whether that's National Guardsmen, anything we can do to put handcuffs on bad guys and try to keep these communities safer, we're going to welcome that. What we're hoping is that however long this lasts, whether that's 30 days or longer, we're hoping that these federal agencies get some insight into the problems that exist here in the district so that we can fix them and have a long-term prescribed impact on crime. And they don't just pack up and leave, and we end up holding the bag with the same problems we had before they got here.
How would you describe the problems as they exist today?
The City Council passed a bill called the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Act, which was 80 pages of activist-driven anti-police rhetoric. Since that bill passed, we have been unable to staff this department. We have lost over 700 police officers. The city is currently offering $25,000 hiring bonuses, $6,000 housing allowances, and nobody seems to want to line up to take this job. We have people retiring early, and half of the people that separate from this department are separating through resignation. No one wants to work here. The working conditions are absolutely miserable. The way the department makes up for this gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime that's imposed on our members, which just increases the burnout, the frustration, and the attrition rate. So something needs to be done, and we're hoping that these federal agencies, when they come in and get some eyeballs on how bad these problems are, they can help us get these laws that the City Council passed at least amended, if not overturned.
Gregg, the statistics that have been released by the city suggest the following. Violent crime compared to last year, down 26%. Homicide compared to last year, down 12%. Assault with a deadly weapon compared to last year, 20%. Do you believe those?
I do not believe those. I don't think those numbers are accurate. The reason being is that our members report to us, albeit anecdotal, it is quite a prevalent problem in that they respond to the scenes of the type of offenses you just mentioned. And inevitably, some management official, a captain, a lieutenant, sometimes even a commander, will show up on the scene and direct those officers to take a report for a lesser offense. They'll turn robberies into thefts. They'll turn stabbings into simple assaults. They'll turn shootings into injured person to the hospital cases. On top of that, there was a recent report by a local affiliate that showed that there was a police commander who was under investigation for manipulating crime stats. He's accused of going into police databases and changing felonies down to misdemeanors after the fact to keep crime stats low. Now, listen, I know that commander, and he's a very reputable, trustworthy guy. Our members trust him, and they look to him for leadership. I can't imagine that he did something like that maliciously. If he, in fact, did, I'm assuming that it's a directive from on high so that all commanders go into police databases and change police stats down so that city officials can report crime is down. I don't believe it is. Even if I stipulate that crime has gone down in those amounts that you just mentioned, 2023 was the most violent year we've had in 30 years. We had 297 homicides. We had 960 carjackings. The robberies, the shootings were off the charts. To report that crime is slightly down from there, while that's a positive development, it's nothing to take a victory lap about. We should not be celebrating a city that has 200 homicides per year that's this size. We need to try to drive those numbers as close to zero as possible. No one should be satisfied. No one should be normalizing 200 homicides.
Gregg, I lived in this city in 1991 when there were 504 homicides, and the statistic comes from, or came from, the medical examiner's office. They would know how many bodies came through. 504 is a very large number. The president, in the context of this particular conversation says crime in the district has never been worse. That is a statistical lie. It's not true. It has been worse. I lived here in the city when it was worse. Is the only remedy for where we are now federalizing MPD?
Well, let's look at those numbers, because you're absolutely right that there were 500 plus homicides in the early 90s. And the way that the department dealt with it was they hired an additional 1,000 police officers to get the staffing level up to 5,000 sworn Metropolitan Police Department officers who went out, did their jobs, and they were authorized to get bad guys off the street and put handcuffs on criminals and investigate violent crime. And by the time we got to the year 2000, those numbers were down below 200 homicides. Since then, we've gone from 5,000 police officers to 3,000 police officers, and we're standing eyeball deep in legislation that prohibits us from doing our job. So the fact of the matter is, you're right that the 1990s were much more violent, but I'm not satisfied that we're living in the nation's capital in 2025 with 200 homicides per year. And I think the way that we can get those numbers down as close to zero as we can is to have more police officers on the street and permit them to do their jobs so that we can actually get bad guys held accountable and get them sentenced to sentences that are commensurate with the crimes they've committed.
Is it your message, Gregg, to the city council, if you want the feds to back off, hire more cops?
Our message to the council is that, look, you're managing a city that has the seat of the federal government here, that they often act like a babysitter. And I know that the district government does not want a babysitter, but if that's the case, they should not act like petulant children. The bills that they have passed are horrific. They're horrible. They have been written by activists. We have the empirical data that has devastated the police department and has caused crime to flourish. If they don't want the feds to be involved in criminal activity or in criminal enforcement, they should change those bills immediately. They should put an omnibus bill together and repeal everything that they pushed through in 2020 at the height of the anti-police rhetoric. That's my argument. I would prefer not to have federal involvement in law enforcement. I would prefer to have a proper number of police officers so that we could go out and do the job that we all signed up to do, which is keep these neighborhoods safe.
Gregg Pemberton, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Major, thank you.